Boys and girls, I know read aloud time is one of our favorite times of the day. So I thought that I would start doing some read alouds and posting them on my page. And then if you're ever interested in having a story read to you, or maybe mom and dad just need a little quiet time to themselves, you can go on my channel and listen to a read aloud. And you can listen to it more than once. We watch movies more than once. We read books more than once. So I have a special story for you today. It is by Robert Munsch. He's the author that wrote all of the stories that Mr. Prony was talking to you about in the other video. He is one of my favorite authors because he likes to write stories that will make children laugh. And he also likes to write stories where kids can join in with the person reading to them and chant along with them. The second reason that I chose the story today, which by the way is Alligator Baby. The second reason I chose the story is because I don't know if you've heard, but our own Maddie is a big sister now for the second time. And her brother, William Patrick, was born on St. Patrick's Day. Here is a picture of William. Isn't he so cute? And I'm telling you, when I get really close up to the picture, I can see some of Maddie's features right in there. So, Maddie, today's read aloud is dedicated to you. Congratulations, Alligator Baby. One night, Kristen's mother woke up and yelled, "A baby! A baby! I'm having a baby!" Kristen's father jumped up, zoomed around the room, got dressed, and grabbed Kristen's mother by the hand. They ran downstairs to the car and they drove off really fast. Unfortunately, they got lost. They didn't get to the hospital. They got to the zoo, but it was okay. Kristen's mother had a lovely baby, and then they drove home, and they knocked on their front door. Blam, 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 blam. Well, Kristen opened the door, and there was her mother holding something all wrapped up. "Kristen," she said, "would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes, I would," said Kristen. So Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket and she saw a long green tail, and she said, Mom, that's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle part of the blanket. She saw a green claw and said, Mom, that's not a people claw." She lifted up the top of the blanket and saw a long green face with lots of teeth and said, "Mom, Dad, that is not a people face. That is not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then, the baby reached up and bit Kristen's mother on the nose, and she yelled, "Ah!" Then the baby reached up and bit her father in the nose, and he yelled, "Ah!" "That's not a people baby," said Kristen. "That's an alligator baby." "Goodness," said her mother, "we've got the wrong baby." So Kristen put the alligator baby into the fish tank, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo, and then they came back in an hour and knocked on the door. Do it with me. Blam, 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 blam. Kristen opened the door and saw her mother and said, her mother said, "Would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. And if you look, there's the baby alligator, plop right in the family fish tank. What a fun house to live in. Kristen lifted up the bottom of the blanket and saw a fishy tail and said, "That's not a people tail." Kristen lifted up the middle of the blanket, saw a flipper, and said, "That's not a people flipper." Kristen lifted up the top of the blanket, saw a face with whiskers, and said, "That's not a people face. That is not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." Just then, the baby reached up with its flipper and flapped her father's face. Whap, 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 whap. He yelled, "Ah! It's a..." Have you thought about what it is? Let's go back a minute. Good readers go back and look at what they've read to help understand and make predictions and things. So remember, it was a fishy tail, a flipper, and a face with whiskers. It's a seal baby. We've got the wrong baby. So Kristen put the seal baby in the bathtub, and her mother and father drove back to the zoo. They came back in an hour and knocked on the door. "Do it with me." Blah, 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 blah. They said, "Kristen, would you like to see your new baby brother?" "Oh, yes," said Kristen. So, you know what's going to happen. She lifted up the bottom of the blanket and saw a hairy leg. She said, that's not a people leg." She lifted up the middle of the blanket. She saw a very hairy arm and said, "That's not a people arm." She lifted up the top of the blanket and saw a very hairy face and said, you can say it with me, boys and girls, if you're remembering it from the other pages, "That's not a people face, and that's not my baby brother." "Now, Kristen," said her mother, "don't be jealous." So, boys and girls, are you noticing how the author has a pattern of the way he's telling the story? That's what we call author's craft. The author has a certain way that he wants his stories told. And then he does that so that you can join in or you can enjoy it. So when an author has a certain way that he or she likes to write, it's called the author's craft. I plan on reading some more Robert Munsch stories. And I want you to see if you can recognize Robert Munsch's craft in the other stories. Then the baby reached up with its feet and grabbed her mother's ear and her father's ear, and they both yelled, let's do it together, you guys. "Ah! It's a..." Have you thought about what this creature is? Hairy face, hairy arm, hairy leg. It's a gorilla baby! We've got the wrong baby. "Let me take care of this," said Kristen. So her mother and her father put the gorilla baby on the chandelier in the living room, and Kristen went off to the zoo on her bicycle. Oh my gosh, I just love that. First the animal baby got mom, then the animal baby got dad, and now the animal baby got mom and dad. First, Kristen looked in the snake's cage. No people babies. Then Kristen looked in the wombat cage. No people babies. Then Kristen looked in the elephant cage. No people babies. Then she stopped and she listened, and from far away she could hear wah, wah, wah. Now that's more like it, said Kristen. She followed the sound, and it was coming from the gorilla page. Can you see how the illustrator in this book shows that Kristen is hearing something? How is the illustrator showing that Kristen can hear something? Those pictures are really important in the story. They tell you more about the story. Kristen looked at the mommy gorilla and said, "Give me my baby brother." Well, the gorilla jumped away and would not give the baby back. Boys and girls, I'm wondering if any of you are asking yourselves, how is she going to get this baby back? Or this is what I think is going to happen and how she's going to get the baby back. If you're doing those things, you're a reader. Readers ask themselves questions about the story. Readers make predictions or good guesses as to what's going to come next. So if you guys are doing that, I didn't even ask you to do it. If you're just doing that in your head, that means you're a good reader. But I have to tell you something. I already knew that you guys were good readers. Then the people baby reached up and bit the gorilla on the nose. And the gorilla yelled, "Ah!" and handed the baby to Kristen. Kristen jumped on her bicycle and pedaled all the way home. Kristen knocked on the front door. What to do it? Blah, 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 blah. And when her parents opened it, she said, "Would you like to see your new baby?" Kristen's mother lifted up the bottom of the blanket and said, "Look, people legs." She lifted up the middle of the blanket and said, "Look, people hands." She lifted up the top of the blanket and said, "Look, it's a people face." Kristen's mother picked up the baby and gave it a big hug. Her father took the baby and gave it a big hug. And her mother said, Kristen, you got the baby back. Good for you." "But what are we going to do with all these other babies that are in our house?" said Kristen's father. "There's a seal baby in the bathtub, and an alligator baby in the fish tank, and a gorilla baby hanging from the chandelier. We should take them back to the zoo." But Kristen looked out of the window and said, what do you think she said? What do you think she saw? Make a prediction as to what's going to happen next. I'll give you some think time. "I don't think we'll have to go to the zoo or do anything at all." And everything, boys and girls, was okay. Until Kristen's mother had twins. Boys and girls, I hope you liked Alligator Baby as much as I did. And remember, this is dedicated to Patrick William. Congratulations there to Maddie. And boys and girls, as always, I miss you. And I can't wait until we can do a read aloud and you're right there in front of me. All right, goodbye for now.